Man, it always fades out right when I want to start headbanging. Hey, welcome to episode 4 of the Twin Tail Studios podcast.
I'm your host, Adam.
And I am here to help run the MacBook, Brady Sadler. Brady J. Sadler. I'm going to start.
Oh, we're doing full names? Adam Sadler.
Well, I was going to specify. Maybe I don't, because it's a pen name. But
did you know we had the same last name?
No, but I think because you just pointed that out, we should maybe talk to like a geneticist or something to see if like there's some sort of relation. So we're glad you joined us today because today is a very exciting episode. I mean, every episode is very exciting, but this is episode 4, which is called insert name of.
You're
podcast.
Naming the episodes. It's a lot of work to name.
It's
every
not.
Episode.
I mean,
It's episode 4.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not like giving clever names. This one's probably going to just be like books and games or something because we're going to talk a lot about our first release. Because later on in this episode, we'll discuss the very first official Twin Tail Studios release, which is going to be coming out a week from today. And we hope you all check it out, support it, talk about it, because it's, like I said, it's our first release, so it's pretty important. It's monumental, you might say. But anyway, before we get into that, let's just talk about maybe like what we've done since the last time we checked.
What we've
been doing. Which was, I think, did we do an episode last week or was it 2 weeks ago?
I think it was last week.
Yeah, because it was with the press release. We had a press release come out.
Yes, the press release went out. Got picked up by a couple people, maybe, but
yeah, but we'll not talk about work. Like, what did you do outside? This is work. What did you do outside of work? Did you do something any cool?
Outside of work, I did a little bit of. I finally finished painting my Killzone Vulcus terrain for Kill Team,
so we can play Kill Team now.
But I still need to paint all that Tyranid stuff now. Yeah, so I got that painted. I went to go see a movie twice.
Save that because we later, at the end of the episode, we talk about what we've been seeing, what we've been watching.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so the problem is you got to consume less media when you do. You got to go out and touch some grass.
I did that. I walked. I did my daily walks every day. That's pretty much it. Like played some video games, played some Elden Ring, Night Rain.
But have you pontificated? Because I've done a little bit of pontificating.
Well, I mean, I spent all week thinking about the whole week was me thinking about stuff, and I was in my head all week. So, but unfortunately, stuff we can't necessarily talk about just yet. But project related stuff and job stuff and everything. So,
well, I have been in a similar boat where the problem with currently doing this this studio endeavor is it is kind of consuming outside of work because they have our day jobs, and then this is like what we do outside of our day jobs. So I've been doing a lot of that because I always hate that. I get asked a lot about how I find time for things like for writing and doing games and stuff, and it's mostly because I don't do anything else. I need to have more things to unwind. Like I need to exercise more, or I need to do something that's not writing or games because it's all I've been doing lately. So I have nothing really to add that either because we'll talk about a lot of what we've been doing for the studio for Twin Tail stuff. Since we're not getting paid for Twin Tail Studio stuff just yet, it's still recreational. I mean that's I don't want to eat into our content for our for the bulk of the episode, and like you said, we went to see a movie twice, which we'll talk about later, so there's no point in talking about it now, but we'll just dive into like studio news because that's probably what people come here to check out is what's going on with Twin Tail Studios. And like you mentioned last year, we did have a podcast episode drop, but we had a press release drop, which was the founding of Twin Tail Studios and our first release, which if you didn't hear it last week, it is the Malice of Light Adventures, a cooperative roguelike boss battler.
First release?
4 players.
First release or first game?
First game. Did I say first release?
Yeah. First release.
Our first release is later. We're going to do another press release this week. Maybe. We'll see. I got to figure out.
Press release about a release.
Yeah. Well, no, the press release will be, this is out. So it comes out next week. So the 26th, August 26th is when Ransom Creek Remains comes out, which is what we're going to talk about this episode. We'll get into that a lot. We'll do a deep dive into Ransom Creek Remains and what the future holds for this cool property.
Well, about the press release.
Regarding last week's press release.
Regarding the Malice of Light Adventures, which is our first game project that we've been working on, going very well. But we did notice that the Dice Tower mentioned it on their
Dice Tower News
YouTube video. However, I feel the need to bring this up every time this happens, and I feel like we should probably just say this every single episode just to make it super clear to anybody who might come in to check out what Twin Tail Studios is all about. Brady and I did work at Blacklist Games. We in no way had any sort of ownership or, share in anything the company did, financially or whatever. We were paid employees, salaried employees, focusing on game design development. We did marketing, live streams, project management, stuff like that. No logistical, financial,
business
anything like related to anything the company ownership.
Administrative. That's what I was thinking. Administrative.
No administrative responsibilities or access at all. So Blacklist Games was somebody we worked for, not our studio. So this Twin Tail Studios is our very first company that we've started together outside of a band.
And what Adam was talking about was on the Dice Tower, Tom, and it might have been just kind of like a slip of the tongue because Tom said they used to have their own studio. We did not. We weren't Blacklist Studios. And this is a kind of like maybe this is sort of a time to like a lesson to be learned is if you are ever in a position where your name means something in the industry and there's a company that wants to exclusively release your games and have you be the mouthpiece of the company, maybe stop and ask, why is that? Like, there might be something weird here. So
I mean, it's hard to ask questions when you're offered a job to just design games full time with your brother and you just do whatever games you want. It's hard to try to rock the boat with that situation. But also we stupidly took titles that meant nothing. Like we were hired as senior game designers, and eventually after a few projects or a few years there, we decided to take these VP of product development roles, which is really just we were in charge of what projects we did, and designing projects and hiring designers to do projects. And we thought the title was like, oh, that makes us sounds fancy, but it also makes people think that we had some kind of ownership in the company, which is not true at all.
Yeah. So we won't have to litigate all of that, but like you mentioned, it is good to just kind of point out, yes, that's not true. But thank you for Dice Tower for
yes. I wasn't trying to dump on Dice Tower. I just it came up, and I was like, oh man, it sucks when we can't get that word out enough that it's trying to squash misinformation where it's like this is not true. It's not it's getting it wrong intentionally, but like we try to do our best to make it clear that this is our studio and it's exciting because it's our first time actually having our own game studio.
Yeah, and that'll be another point we're going to talk about too, about like the foundation of the studio and like why it exists. I mean, we've touched on it before, but I think it's important to kind of reiterate that. But also like we unfortunately haven't had a lot of opportunities to kind of just sit down with Tom. He's a busy guy. Like we saw him at Gen Con, and he was nice enough to come by my author table and pick up a copy of The Accurate Sky. Not sure if he'll have time to read it because I know he's got a lot on his reading list, but hope you enjoy it, Tom. And
what was that one about Santa Claus?
He said he picked up a book about Santa Claus killing aliens or something.
Robots or dinosaurs?
Yeah, I forget, yeah. But someone in the comments was like, hey, Tom, what's the name of that book? Because my friend wants to pick it up. So yeah, thanks for picking that up, Tom. Hope you enjoy it. I'm not sure if it's because you like the Stormlight Archive, so I always think that people who like Brandon Sanderson might enjoy my stuff, but I don't explain my magic system as exhaustively as Brandon Sanderson does. Who knows? But anyway, yeah, so going off the press release, we send it out to as many different outlets as possible. I'm not sure if I hit the deadline because I think there might be some sort of like turnaround time where these outlets, you have to have a certain amount of lead time for an article to run. So
also for some reason, a lot of sometimes your email is going to spam to people.
When you have a new email handle, if you haven't sent a lot of emails, you have to like earn trust with that email handle. So I've been sending a lot of emails just to make sure like the internet knows my email handle is not a spam source. So it might be like an ongoing endeavor to try to get our stuff run again. But we'll run another press release for the upcoming book, which comes out next week. So look out for that. And just another kind of. We'll touch on something that press release didn't really go into too much because it came up a couple times during different posts. I posted in Board Game Geek some of the press release replies to the press release I was interacting with, just kind of answering questions. But I think there was some confusion about what Adam mentioned before about the studio, Blacklist Games versus Twin Tail Studios. And one of the things that came up was somebody asked about Dragon Bond Quest, what that means for Dragon Bond Quest in relation to Malice of Light Adventures. And I was going to cover this in the listener questions, but I think it's kind of relevant here.
That was the Board Game Geek, right?
Yeah. And somebody replied asking about that. And it's not our place to talk about Dragon Bond Quest because that is with Draco Studios. We did actually have a call with Draco Studios, but I'm not sure what we are at liberty to say happened in that meeting. It's not for us to say. But that what they have said is that game is still in development. It's still they're restructuring in the company to figure out where it goes. So that's still in work, in flux, I guess you should say. But I was going to say in response to that post on BGG, it's really doesn't really affect it because Malice of Light Adventures is not a game that is. It's not the design. The design is not the same as Dragon Bond Quest. There's obviously the DNA because we mentioned before the Malice of Light Adventures pulls from some of our previous designs. Can you hear the ice rattle?
I heard it.
I got to stop moving my leg. So the Malice of Light Adventures, we'll have more deep dives about this game when we start doing previews for it because we don't want to like spoil too much right now. But it does pull from the DNA of Warhammer Quest adventure card game and Heroes of Terranoth, just like Dragon Bond Quest.
Dragon Bond Quest is a card game and is very much like pulled from that. It's a spiritual successor, if you will, of Heroes of Terranoth. And that game, we don't know much about it because we finished our work, the design work, like years ago now. Like it's been done.
It's about a year, about a full
couple years, maybe. I don't know, but we've been done with it for a while, and it's been handed off to the publisher. So that's really not out of our hands. We don't really. We'll be happy to share news when news is there to available to share, but we'd have no.
That's what we told them on the call. We told them we'd be happy to cross promote as needed. But the reason I bring that up is because it kind of is relevant to why we started Twin Tail Studios. Because as I mentioned, this is our first time doing our own studio because we've had, and this is funny because Dragon Bond Quest is kind of an example of this because we can't speak for it. We designed the game. A lot of people think that we have more involvement than we actually do when it comes to designing, and we've actually, we've shied away for so long about having that like ownership, but now we want to lean as hard as we can into it. So that's why we started this company. Is now we can any design we have under Twin Tail Studios, we can say everything with full authority of what's true about that project. We can officially be the spokespeople for that. So that's what we've been trying to do in the past, but it blows up in our face in different ways. So that's the reason this company exists, is because we want to make a full-blown effort to fully own our projects and be able to speak, with authority on them. So yeah, the Malice of Light Adventures is the first one of that ilk, and we hope many more to come. We'll be doing more previews about that game because I guess it's fun to talk about in this episode. Is we just from last night's playtest, I think it's safe to say the design of this game is 100% locked in. It is like a solid design. I would go as far to say is it's probably our tightest design that we've ever done. And Hour of Need can step aside because this game is super tight.
Well, what he means also by that design is the core system, like how the game structure works, is locked in. There's still polish, obviously, for effects and content and things like that.
I never speak for content. Yeah, this is all just for the actual rule.
What he means is the rules, the core system is working as intended. It's pretty slick. We've only been playtesting with 2-player, obviously, because it's just 2 of us. So we still need to test from solo to 4, make sure it's still it works just as we intended to. We have some minor adjustments for solo play, but it's still the same rule set. But all that being said, Brady finished up writing the first draft of the rule book this weekend, so hopefully this coming week we can actually start opening the door up to some external testers to try the game out, give us their feedback, and move on to the next stage of development.
Yeah, and I think one fun part of this podcast will be to kind of talk about project development, like game development. Like we don't have to go into the weeds because I'm not sure if every listener here is interested in the nitty gritty details of game design and game development. But for this particular project right now, because we're moving into external testing, my goal starting tomorrow is going to be rounding out the actual core set content, the base game content. And in this case for this project, there is just the base game. We're not doing a bunch of expansions and stuff. So the game content will be my next focus because now that we have... What are you doing, Loxley? My cat's attacking Adam.
Get down.
Yeah, sorry, cat interruptions. My next focus will be to start rounding out the content because we need to start map art. Is it safe to say that who we've got on the maps? I don't know if you mentioned that before, but exciting.
I mean, I haven't fully announced it yet. I don't know if he would mind. I hope he doesn't mind. But we.
Well, you can say it's not set in stone, but we're in talks.
I've someone I've worked with ever since back when I was at FFG, when I worked on Distant Second Edition. I worked with an artist named Henning Ludvigsen on the map tile art, and you've probably seen his work on all kinds of games. He works on pretty much everything out there. From I think he worked on Zombicide. I think he did that new Doom game that was just announced. I think he did the tile art for that. But he's done art for all kinds of stuff. He even does video games and things like that as well. So he's a very talented artist. But we're hoping to have him work with us on our map tile art. So that's in discussion right now, and very excited about it.
Yeah, I think that's why I want to make sure that the at least the map art, the maps for the game are fully conceptualized, at least that way the art can get started, because a lot of the mechanical stuff with these things is more dependent on the graphics, not the art. The art, you just have to have a rough idea about what these stages look like, what the theme is, what the overall layout of the map is. So that'll be my focus this coming week, since the rules are essentially locked in and we can start getting some playtest feedback, because like I said, the design, I feel like I'm really confident it's there, because the playtest we had last night, it just really felt like we had something special, and just excited to start designing more stuff. Because if anybody listening has experience designing games, especially like cooperative solo games that have a lot of like content elements, because there are game designs out there where if it's just a competitive game, it's more about the system itself. The content is so kind of like secondary in a sense, but in solo co-op, content is king. So this game, it's like you want to dive into all these different ways to mess with the rules, but you cannot do that obviously until you have those rules locked in. And we've got to that point now, so I'm just excited to start messing with the rule set with new bosses and new heroes and everything.
And as Brady mentioned with this project, I think we talked about this pretty extensively when we announced what we were doing for our first project. As in the game is just going to be the core set for this first project. Whether Game Found or Kickstarter or whatever we launch the project on. And that's not because we can't do more content or we don't want to do more content. It's really just trying to keep the scope very focused, and also make it so the timeline is quick. Because we do know, like we've discussed multiple times before, we know that there's this taint of Blacklist Games on us, like from the things that happened with Blacklist Games that we worked for them. And we want to make it very clear how we operate. We want to use this game as an example of this is how we will handle our projects. So it is going to be focused on content of just the core set, but we do hope that if it does well, that we could follow up with a reprint and expansion, and expand the game in the future going forward. Assuming it's well received and people want more content for it. But yeah, that I just want to mention that because we do like to expand our games. Anybody who's played our stuff knows that we expand our games, with the exception of Warhammer Quest and Heroes of Terranoth, is because we just couldn't, and
we did, but it didn't get released.
Yeah, I mean, it never got released. And that's another reason we wanted to start this company, is so we can actually expand our games when we want to. And yeah, that's just why. Yeah, and another point on too is it is kind of frustrating because we're trying to stick with this methodology, this kind of vision where Adam, when you first approached about this concept of doing this, because I've always toyed with this idea of doing our own company, but I've kind of just sat on it because I've kept myself busy writing books and everything. But when you approached about doing this very concise project, it does kind of trigger this reaction in me where I'm I push against it in a way, because I do just want to keep churning out content. And already, now that we've locked this design in, I'm thinking of all kinds of cool ways to do expansions and stuff. But it is something where we want to remind ourselves that we just want to make sure we set ourselves up for success, and everybody who backs us, they get what they want. We just want to make sure that this delivers on time and as beautiful as possible. So we are keeping that in check. But the design itself, I can speak right now from how my brain is thinking. It's tons of design space, so we could easily ramp this thing up if it does well. So support it. One thing I'll mention is that I'm not the biggest fan of playtesting on Tabletop Simulator. Obviously, it's kind of rough and miserable. I know from our experience of our previous games where I remember playtesting them and just having such a miserable time with certain parts of it. But the game came out and people loved it. And it's like, I know that there's a big difference between playing on tabletops, and playing physical product, but it goes to show you how I feel about this game, where this game is actually fun to play. Like, we actually played through the entire game on Saturday, and yesterday, and
last night.
It kind of went pretty quickly, and I was like, I was fully engaged the whole time. It wasn't like pointing out things or problems or whatever. It was just like playing a fun game. So it's in really good shape, and we're still, like, we haven't even announced the date for the crowdfunding project. So, like, the game is going to be done probably when it funds.
Yeah,
like, it'll be completely done.
Yeah, we'll get a lot of testers on it. And what's that term? I always struggle with terms because when I'm writing, I can look stuff up. But like, there's a term when you're speaking very, like, honestly or earnestly. There's a term where, like, let me speak. Oh, frankly. Let me speak frankly. Is that what I'm thinking of? Maybe.
Frank Reynolds.
Yeah, Frank Reynolds. I'll be honest. When we were playtesting the last few times, I did not think this game was good. Like, I was because the game was working, and I was like, man, is this game fun? I can't tell. And I'll be honest about that, because it was really, like, kind of depressing me, because it was like I was struggling with whether or not we should, like, reassess certain things. But then playing last night, when we made, like, a lot of drastic changes to the system. Well, I say drastic, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, not drastic as in, like, we're changing how the game plays. It's more just how the villain operates and everything. But all those changes, they clicked in so well. I was like, why didn't we think about this before? And it just felt so right, even from the design standpoint. And then we got to the table, and like Adam mentioned, we were playing last night on that playtest, and it just kind of, like, I forgot that we were testing a game. I just thought I was playing a game, and, like, we're having fun talking about what we should do and stuff, and that's when you know it's working, because all the design stuff falls away, and you're just, like, focused on the game decisions.
And the funny thing was, it was our first test with this new system, so we were just making sure the system worked, but we actually got to the end, and I just brought the boss down to, like, enough health while on Brady's turn, he would be able to kill the boss. But then, like, the minions reacted and killed you.
Don't blame it on me.
Yeah, it killed one of the goblin archers. Shot Brady and killed him.
You could have prepared instead of attacked and got me my cards back.
It was like literally just one turn away from winning, and we lost it. So it was pretty good balance for the first attempt. So it's feeling good, and it's, like I said, it's pretty early, especially for a crowdfunding project. Usually, we do crowdfunding projects. It's very early, because the publisher wants to ensure that they can do the game before we actually finish all the content and everything. So this one is going to be in great shape.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, now we're in this space where we're going to be testing externally, getting some feedback, making sure the rules are tight. Because that demo kit that we send out to content creators and video reviewers and everything, you want to make sure it's in the best shape possible. And the best way to do that is just to get some outside opinions, because we can only do so much ourselves from being so close to it. So that's our current step, and I'll be working on the new content. So that's Malice of Light Adventures. It's going well. Quick little update too, because this thing, we've always kind of said it's tentative, but we're quoting out what it looks like having the books be part of the project, the crowdfunding project, because we have the game itself, but we mentioned before, we're trying to make it as simple as possible. We're not trying to complicate that, but at the same time, because it's so closely tied to these books, and we want to make a cool special edition of the first 3 books of the Malice of Light, that's a potential, and we've been quoting that out. It's just complicated because the 3rd book in the series is not done. I'm writing it now. That's what I'm currently kind of working on the side while we're also designing this game. So I'm about 40,000 words into this story, and I was aiming for it to be maybe like 150,000 or 175,000 words. And once we get this game locked in and we're kind of just in the polishing stage, then it shouldn't be a problem. I can just probably churn this draft out and be done in September. But that's where I'm currently at for the book, is I'm trying to make sure I get ahead of the game and have the draft ready for my editor, to make sure that it's going to meet the deadline whenever the project launches.
I guess that's something that maybe anybody in the Discord can chat about. Like, is if you don't have the books, would you be interested in buying like a collector's edition books for a game that you're backing on GameFound or Kickstarter?
Would that be exciting? Would that be something that's interesting? Because I find it interesting, obviously, because I like books. But
I mean, it plays into our company as well, because our company is Twin Tail Studios. It's like a books and games and combo, this combo publishing company. So it's also pretty easy to do when we're printing a game anyway, like printing books that don't require playtesting, or it's like your book's edited and it's ready to go. So it would be easy to do at the same time. if it fits within the budget. But also, we just need to make sure that there's enough interest where people would actually want to pick it up. As there, we were thinking about maybe doing like a bundle with the game and the book and the collector's edition of the books, like as a little bundle pledge. And then, of course, having the game separate, maybe the books separate as well.
Yeah, I'm always curious how that would play out. Like if, the whole hindsight's always 20/20, where we could like evaluate afterward how many people picked up the game versus the game and the book. I feel like the bundle, if we can like price it right, would be a good bargain. But I don't know if people would be like, oh, I don't need the book. I'm here for the game. So, but also like we might be able to pull book fans that happen to like books. And
it's funny because I don't read that much. Like Brady knows, I just don't read a lot. But I still buy like Warhammer books and stuff if a Warhammer release comes
especially
out.
Nice ones, like nice looking ones.
Yeah, but if I was back in a board game that I thought was really cool, like in some original setting, and there was like a collector's edition novel set with it, I would probably back it just because it's a cool collector's item, even if I never read it.
Yeah.
So maybe people are like that as well, where they just want to grab it.
Also, when you bundle it, if it's like part of a bundle, it's like I might as well get the whole thing. So yeah, chime in, give us some feedback on that because it's something we're always contemplating. I'm going to push for it obviously because I want to have a special edition of these books, and these are going to be like in a nice pocket, like hardcover edition that you don't really see very often. So it's kind of our opportunity to do like a really cool niche, version of these books. So that's
now. Were you thinking about doing the same cover art on these?
Oh yeah.
So
I'm not a fan of those like limited edition, like leather covers.
Is the art like this the right dimensions for that different size, or is it going to be cropped differently?
No, because it's comparable because it just kind of scales down from and we have a graphic designer who can help make sure that looks right. But
fair. Oh, I think we mentioned this about playtesting. We'll probably open it up as just fair warning for anybody who is interested in playtesting. There's no graphic design on this prototype yet. It's ugly.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
It's an ugly black and white. Well, there's some placeholder stuff, but yeah, don't expect it to look like anywhere near final. We're still in the alpha phase right now.
But the good thing is, if you're interested in playtesting, like the game is pretty, like I said, pretty solid. We're probably gonna start graphic design fairly soon, so that tabletop simulator might get updated to look pretty nice eventually.
If you haven't joined the Discord yet, do it because it's the best way to stay in touch with everybody that's in the community and also get opportunities for playtesting and stuff, and also get peeks behind the curtain. So
join in on that sleeve versus anti-sleeve conversation.
Yeah, and I was going to
heating up pretty fast.
I was going to save that for the listener questions, but I'll go ahead and chime in right now that we went on a bit of a spiel last week about sleeves, and it's mostly tongue-in-cheek because Adam and I speak that kind of that sarcastic, like, I hate blah, blah. We don't like sleeves, but like we're not that anti-sleeves. I know there are people who are super anti-sleeve, but we just don't sleeve stuff usually.
It's weird because I'm very particular about my games being in good condition, but I'm very careful with my cards and stuff. But sleeving is just too extreme for me because I play games with lots of cards in them, and I don't want. I think I tried sleeving Shadows of Brimstone when I first got it, and like trying to have decks of cards with sleeves, it was just a nightmare. I was like, I just want to have cards that like okay, they might get dinged up a bit. I don't care.
And I sleeved my Marvel Champions for a while when I first started playing that. Or actually, I should go back even further. When I was playing the Lord of the Rings LCG, I sleeved that. I sleeved some of my Arkham Horror stuff. But
now I was okay with that when I had like a deck. Like I was playing LCG and I would build a deck and I would have just a deck of cards. I would sleeve those. I don't care. It
feels kind of different when it's a card game, like not like a board game where it uses cards. So.
But I think that we also have PTSD from physical prototypes where we would literally just be sleeving cards constantly. We did a lot of card heavy games. And that's one thing I will say about Tabletop Simulator. It's not fun to play on, but man, it is so much better to mock up prototypes. Like I cannot stand. Like I almost quit gaming, game design a long time ago because of physical prototyping. Like it just
it's a burden.
I remember doing that for Distant Second Edition. Luckily, I was in an office and I was getting paid to do it in an office, so like it wasn't that bad. But it was very hard to just sit there and update, go do a play test, update the whole prototype with all these cards when little changes and stuff like that. It's also so much printing paper.
And a minor thing too, it's like you almost miss the feel of cards if you use sleeves all the time, because when you're like sleeving prototypes like that, I think that's probably why I joke about being anti-sleeve, is because I just like the feel of cards. I like printed cards, and like those factories put a lot of time and effort into making really high quality components, and I just can't feel them because they're in sleeves, and that just bugs me. So
as a gamer myself, aside from prototyping, I just don't like sleeves because they take up so much space. Like if you have a tall deck of cards, you can't really just sit them on the table. they'll slide off or something. You have to have a card holder. So little reasons, but that's, you know, I guess all that being said, that was loud.
Yeah.
That was all that being said, you know,
Riley's doing the cat poop.
We typically just make jokes about card sleeves. I wouldn't hold anything against people who like sleeves. So.
No, yeah, and we will honestly we will explore options for the Malice of Light Adventures to see like what there is possible to like accommodate sleeves in the insert, because we don't want to like exclude, you know, certain storage. Like the benefit with this game is it's not super card heavy, so we can probably find a solution where either just like toss in a foam block to you know compensate.
The tough part is I just personally like that feel of like a perfectly fitted like card tray. But yes, we can obviously make it wider to accommodate sleeves where if you don't have sleeves, they'll just jostle around a bit.
Yeah, just toss in a foam block and we'll be good. Yeah, we'll figure something out. We'll make sure that that's part of our quotes. Because one thing we've found out so far about starting our own company is, excuse me, you found out about, you were like already involved in production stuff, but I really enjoy quotes. I love talking to the factory. I love going back and forth with specs. I just like that process. So like we're going to dig into that really hardcore once we get into once the game's locked in, the components are locked in. I want to make sure we make a beautiful product because I'm a big fan of that. So luckily the two guys in charge of Twin Tail Studios love good storage, good inserts, all that stuff. So we'll be taking a lot of care and making sure that's right on point. So
also within budget, because we don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize us delivering a game to backers. So.
Yeah, and then one other thing I want to discuss about the Malice of Light Adventures before we move on to the next topic is we've had a few calls with partners. We've had some interest in localization. We don't have to go into specifics, but I will mention that one of our buddies, David Lockwood, who started his own company, Next Tabletop, who specializes with Derek Funkhauser. They specialize in localization. So that's great. We have a partner lined up for that. We've been in talks with them, but we've also had a couple other meetings with Spanish localization partners who were really excited about partnering with us to get the Malice of Light Adventures into the Spanish market. So that's cool. That's awesome to have that interest right away. We told them, hey, hold on, we got to get our demo kit ready to go. So we don't want to jump the gun or anything like that, but it's cool to have those discussions going. We also talked with some fulfillment people for, do we talk about who that is specifically or just save that for
later? We haven't talked about it yet, but we did meet with Quartermaster Logistics, which is someone we've worked with in the past, and I've always had great experiences with them, so it's very likely that we'll be using them for our project. From our meeting with them, went really well. Very pleased with what we heard. So it's very likely we'll go with them, but obviously nothing's set in stone yet.
Yep. So that's kind of like where we're at now with the Malice of Light Adventures. We're still just waiting to get the preview page up so we can kind of direct traffic there because we want to gain followers. We want to make sure we have a strong base before we hit the launch button or even like plan a launch date. So we'll make sure to keep everyone informed of that. And like I said, join the Discord, join whatever social media channels you can to stay in touch. But
I don't know if we mentioned this, but we also had a meeting with GameFound just about our preview page. We've submitted all the information we needed to like start up a preview page. It hasn't been approved yet. GameFound does have a pretty
exhaustive,
in-depth, approval process. So we've also had a meeting with them just discussing. There's elements to think about of like Kickstarter versus GameFound, because GameFound is tabletop specific, and it's usually like these big projects with lots of stretch goals and like these Awaken Realms style games. So maybe there is a chance that our project might be better for Kickstarter.
That's a good point, because like there is that element. If like let's say hypothetically we are pushing in for like having the books as part of the game, that opens the door. And I know before, like in the last podcast episode, we joked about like, oh, who uses Kickstarter?
Well,
Kickstarter is much more universal,
Yeah, I did mention, I was like, I don't know why you go to Kickstarter over GameFound, because I prefer GameFound.
Yeah.
But I've used Kickstarter for several projects in the past, obviously, and I don't. Like I said, I haven't backed anything in there for a while. But if the project makes more sense on Kickstarter, of course we'll consider that.
Yeah. Because GameFound is very geared specifically toward tabletop games. So like that was that question that popped up when we were like getting quotes for the book, where it's like, well, if we're having a books being like almost like a 50% percent portion of this Kickstarter of this crowdfunding project, does it belong on Kickstarter versus like GameFound, because it's not like fully game, but that's kind of a discussion we're still exploring. But I think like both possibilities are open. There's exciting potential either way, so we'll just keep, we'll update everybody on that as the conversations continue. But it's good to have them, and like we have open doors either way, so it's good overall. So, but I think what we should do is we definitely should talk about our first release, which is the Ransom Creek Remains. It's just Ransom Creek Remains. Comes out a week from today, August 26th. This is our first release officially from Twin Tail Studios. And this is a book that Adam and I both wrote. And we can spend a little time talking about the writing process, how people co-write, because people have asked so many times, how do you co-write a book? So we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about like what makes this special, what makes it unique, why we decided to write this. Do we have games in mind for this? Those kind of topics. So starting off, the Ransom Creek Remains is a novel that was written just like a couple months ago when we were talking about like the concept of what this might be, and this was actually before we even had talks about the company being a thing. Like
honestly, the book was probably the catalyst for us starting a company, because it's been a while since we actually collaborated on a project to fruition. Like started something, working on an idea, and then finishing it up, and actually like getting ready to make it. And that was like, we can just do this with games, like we've done this, we've made games before. Why don't we just make a game company? So it kind of actually led us to where we are right now, was just this random book idea.
Yeah. And I'm like, I just checked my watch because somebody just messaged us on Discord saying they had a question for the podcast. So it's like a good time. I'll have to put that on the list. So we'll double check that Discord channel. But I'm sitting here like rubbing my ankle when you're talking about this, because this kind of came up. Because like you've probably all heard before, if you've listened to the podcast, I broke my fibula back in February, I think it was, when I was supposed to go play Iridia at Adam's house with our gaming group. I was taking the trash out, was coming back in, and I slipped on a tiny like little area of ice, and I landed on my fibula, broke it, and I was on the couch for like 7 weeks or something. It was ridiculous. So like until May. So like the seeds of this book were like planted then, because when I was stuck on the couch, I watched a lot of TV, obviously. When I wasn't writing, I was watching Severance or True Detective. I don't know what it was about True Detective. I just felt like I had to watch that show again, because I hadn't watched it for years, and I hadn't thought about it for years, but for some reason it's like, I gotta watch True Detective season 1. And I talked to you about it, and we were like both watching that on a repeat. So like something about season 1 of True Detective, with that whole like noir cop thing, buddy cop aspect, but with this supernatural like eldritch horror vibe that was kind of like subtle in it. And we were just talking constantly like, what if that was more leaned into? Like what if there was a story that was like a small town buddy cop, but like super eldritch horror, like just leaning into that horror aspect. And obviously I have my Relic Myers series that's very kind of like eldritch horror themed, so this was tied to that. So like that's what kind of spawned this whole idea of like, what if we wrote a book about this? And then I remember you were talking like maybe we just like co-write a book, because I had several books, and I was actually in the middle of writing 2 different books for release that year. I was doing these or this year I should say, I was doing 2 novelettes, they're called, like short stories, and one of which was in Relic Myers, one was in the Malice of Light. But that kind of spawned the discussions about like, what if we tried to write a story together? And it's funny because that's been like one of the main things asked about at Gen Con this year, because like Adam was at my author table, because we were selling some advanced copies of Ransom Creek Remains, and people would ask like, how do you like co-write a book? And I didn't think it was that weird, because there's plenty of books like Dragonlance, Tracy Hickman and
Margaret
Weiss. Yeah, they famously wrote the Dragonlance series. It wasn't that weird, but I guess for us, maybe because like Adam, you don't typically write a ton. You're not like a writer by trade. Yeah, but
I would say I could probably relate to some of these people who like have ideas for books, but they just don't write them. It's like, oh yeah, I have this cool idea for a book. I watch tons of movies and stuff like that, and I've always, I like stories. I remember in school, when I would have to write papers, I was always told I was a good writer. Like, you know, the same way I was told I was a good artist, but it's just something I don't do much. And I mean, no, I don't think anybody could keep up with Brady. He's going to drink your liquid, by the way. But Brady writes all the time. So like, there's no real, there's nothing to do to like keep up with his writing. So it's really more of a place of like collaboration on story and editing and, you know, just ideas, stuff like that, bouncing ideas back and forth. Yeah. So that's kind of where that came from.
Yeah. And like, to me, it's kind of a natural thing because like, people who ask that might not know what is he doing. People who ask like, how do you write a book with each other? Like, you know, co-write a book. Those people probably don't know that Adam and I have a long history of collaborating on game designs. And to me, it's very similar because like with game design, there's so much discussion to be had. Like game design is so much because like games in general, I mean, there are solo games, but in a lot of ways, gaming is like this kind of collaborative experience where you're sitting down with somebody and you're digesting these rules and you're interpreting them into some kind of like, you know, fun game session. So like, there's just this kind of like almost default collaborative nature, even if it's a cooperative game or a repetitive game. So like storytelling in that way can be similar because like if you're telling a story to somebody, you're reacting to how they are reacting to the story. So being an author is very lonely. It's very like isolationist in a lot of ways. So you always try to find that way to like kind of talk about your story as you're working on it. And the problem I have, like, you know, in my day-to-day life is my wife doesn't want to hear about every story I'm working on because, like, I have too many going on in my head. So, and there's so many contextual things that, like those, like the relevances or whatever, the contextual relevances that you'll miss out on. So, like, Adam being involved in the story, the discussions we're having for this story, like that in itself is beneficial to just kind of propel the narrative forward. So, like having that sounding board, like that is enough to be a collaborative effort. But at the same time, just like advising on the story, like, you know, recommending, like just having those discussions, to me, that is completely. That's co-authoring right there, you know. But beyond that, like when the way we do it, like I guess tactically, is like I gotta mention, I just write too much. I'm always writing. Like I like to write. This gives me more direction. So when we started this project, I would just write chapters out and I would like share them with Adam and we'd talk about like whether or not this worked, what was working, what wasn't working. And I mean, that's like a super helpful process. So,
and I had to do things like check Stone Cold Steve Austin's career trajectory when he started using that name because that was just minor editing things where it's like, oh, that doesn't make sense for this time period. So.
Yeah. Like it's kind of hard to explain the intricacies of how this process works because it's just kind of what the heck?
These cats are going nuts down here.
They're trying to impress you guys. They're just like, they're showing off right now, wrestling each other. But yeah, like that's how the process kind of worked is I just write a lot. A lot of times it's meandering. It doesn't make sense. So like, when I share that in a more, collaborative atmosphere, it's easier. It's like Adam's help shaping that story. So that's kind of how the process worked. And it worked out well because like, I don't know, like I've written a lot of books, a lot of stories. This one just kind of felt special, and I think it's just because like we got to work on it together and shape it together.
I also think the collaboration is different on every project. Like that's the beauty of it, is like picking up slack where things might, like, you know, inspiration might dry out. The person can try to pick up some slack. I know, for example, in lots of games we worked on, I know, for example, when we were working on Blacklist, when we were working on Ultra Quest, I think Brady was burnt out on stuff, and like I kind of had to pick up the slack on that one. And then after that was Hour of Need, and I was like, you know, like I was kind of like burnt out, and he started carrying that one a lot. And it's also just like, you know, keeping the creativity flowing regardless of if you're feeling it or not. And that way the person can jump back in and, you know, help out and carry the load as needed. So like, you know, I already have an idea for this. I was watching Late Night with the Devil randomly, and I started having this really cool idea about this book that I was pitching to Brady, and I hope we can do it someday because I really want to do a board game with it as well, like our first competitive board game. which would have co-op mode as well. But
I was gonna say, who's gonna design that with you?
I'll design it solo. I don't care. Like I have some cool ideas for it, but it just to I'll go ahead and say it.
We've done a competitive game, the Awful Fantasy. The first one.
I'm talking about our own, like for our own studio or whatever. But I'll just go ahead and say that the idea of having a fake professional wrestling game, like a fantasy professional wrestling series or whatever. I would love to do a little board game.
Yeah, I don't want to go off on a big tangent, but if anybody, here's the thing: if you haven't read Relic Myers and the Harmony of Hexes, which is book 2 of Relic Myers, go do it. But if you have read it, you'll know there's a very comedic scene in that where Relic and Bree are watching Match Night Mayhem, and the announcer for that, there's always a famous announcer, who's that guy, the famous Larry the King Lawler, right?
Yeah,
he's
also
famous
Jim
Rhodes. Jim Rhodes?
No, I'm drawing a blank here.
It wasn't Jim Ross, right? Jim Ross, yeah. So they were the famous commentators. So there's this kind of parody in Relic Myers, which is based in the late 90s, and they have these commentators, and I forget their names off the top of my head right now, but it's Match Night Mayhem is the show, which is a parody of WWF Raw, but it's funny because the narrators are kind of narrating Relic's.
Don't spoil the scene.
Yeah. I won't spoil it, but there, if you haven't read it, go read it because it's very comedic. But there's that chance where we were talking, and this came up when Adam was pitching it to me. It's what if we took the Match Night Mayhem fake show? Because anybody who doesn't know, there's a fake movie in Harmony of Hexes called Emerald Decay, and I actually wrote the book, which is Emerald Decay, which is available now on Amazon. I wrote that, which is because it's a meta version of the movie that's based in the world. I wrote the book that the movie's based on. So we're talking about maybe doing that with an independent book where it's just the Match Night Mayhem story, and kind of just writing a wrestling story. So there's all kinds of cool things to explore with that IP. So
make for a cool game.
Yeah. So that's how the Ransom Creek. That's how I keep saying that's how Ransom Creek Remains came to be. And like I said, it's going to be available next week. We're going to put a big post out for it. So follow along with that. Check it out if you can. It's a really cool book. It's a really cool noir buddy cop murder mystery book. Very fun. Now
it's kind of funny too, because not funny, there's just sad stuff to it, but back when we were Blacklist, there was a game that the Blacklist was going to do called Buddy Cop that our buddy Mitch Schroeder actually designed, and it was ready to go, but it was based kind of it was a spin-off of Brook City.
And it was 1 to 2 player only, it was a 2-player only game.
And it was a cool little card game, and I really was excited about it, but it obviously never got produced because of whatever happened with Blacklist. But we would like to hire Mitch to do a game like that in the Ransom Creek Remains, and that'd be really cool. So if you're interested in something like that, go pick up that book, and if it sells well, we can do a game. I mean, if it doesn't sell well, we're gonna try to do a game for it anyway.
Yeah.
But if you read the book, you'd probably be more excited about a game. Because I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but back when we were at Blacklist, when we did Brook City, we went to Gen Con, and we only took 50 copies of that game or something. But for some reason, everybody wanted to check that game out. Everybody was like, "Where's that? There's a cop game? Oh my god, I get that! It's like Die Hard or Grand Theft Auto."
Yeah, and apparently at Essen, it was the most requested one, and it wasn't available in Essen. So that was a big miss because it wasn't printed in. There wasn't enough copies for Essen. So I'm not sure what it is about that IP, but I think Ransom Creek Remains is our own personal our own personal vision of. Even though Brook City is kind of a city, a big city version of it, I think Ransom Creek Remains is the same tone. Because if you imagine, the way I always describe Ransom Creek Remains is if you imagine Twin Peaks taking place in, I think it was called Star Hollow, which was the town from Gilmore Girls, which is what I envisioned Ransom Creek looking like, was kind of the Star, I don't know if Star Hollow was the name, but I always...
Was it anything like Delirious with John Candy?
Yeah, it's kind of like that, yeah. Because Gilmore Girls felt like a soap opera, sort of teeny bop version of a soap opera or something, but it's this nice picturesque little Connecticut style town or something somewhere in New England. But that's kind of how I've envisioned, even though this is North Carolina, which is where Ransom Creek takes place. But anyway, that is Ransom Creek Remains. We have plans for that setting. Like I said, it's based in the Relic Myers universe. So yeah, check out
Relic Myers, Rhythms of Ruin. Check out Relic Myers, Harmony of Hexes, and then you'll be ready to check out Ransom Remains. Even though you don't need to check those out beforehand, you can just pick up. I had somebody message me on Instagram, actually, Rachel, who is funny because Rachel is the name of one of the main characters in Ransom Remains. She's like, I like Rachel Kraft's name. But yeah, got a lot of great feedback. It's got some good reviews so far, so please pick it up, please check it out, and we'll be working on a game for that soon. So
yeah, as a reminder, any books that we do are fodder for games. Like we hope to make games with all these settings. So.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever write a book without the intention of it becoming a game or a movie or something. like I just like IPs. Like,
and again, they'll never be like they'll never be required. Like well, I don't think we ever do a game that would play through a story specifically. It's more like just linear, this is set in this world. You play as these characters. Even like back when we did Walking Dead, like that game with Cryptozoic, they wanted like specific scenarios for episodes.
That was
like,
a struggle.
I was like, I don't want to do that. I just want to do like sandbox stuff.
Yeah, there's that like weird there's different methodologies with adaptations because some people are really expecting to just like literally play through X, Y, and Z story beats of that story, and like I never want that. All I want is like I want the characters, I want like the environments, and I want to be able to tell my own stories.
I want to play those. I want to play the things that happen between those episodes. Like I want to play the things you don't see with those characters.
We should move on to listener questions though. Like, do we have any listener questions?
There was one that wasn't necessarily a listener question, but they brought it up asking about. They said they were a fan of us being art. Like characters in Blacklist games, and we wanted to kind of touch on that because it started off as kind of like a joke with Street Masters because Brady and I joined on that project after like a lot of the assets were already created for Street Masters.
And we comment about Double Dragon, right?
Yeah, we kind of like because they were presented to us like all these like fighting games like Street Fighter, all these like head-to-head games. But Bray and I were coming more from like beat 'em up stuff like Streets of Rage and Double Dragon, and so we said we want to do like a Double Dragon themed expansion. And so our boss was like, "Why don't we just put you guys in there as like the Double Dragon or whatever?" I think it was just some kind of joke, like you guys want to be in there.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, sure, let's make us
we're twins
because we're twins. That'd be a funny little thing.
It was also because the name was Twin Tiger, so it's like just to tie it into that.
But it became like people kind of liked it. It became like this ongoing joke with our games where we just. I never wanted to thrust ourselves into these games. It just kind of like as a funny thing that happened. But then again, they would be characters that we thought were cool. Yeah. Like in Brook City, we were like Axel and Reese Murdoch, or no?
Which was
it the same characters' names in Brook City? I forget.
Yeah. So it was because before we became vigilantes, we were cops.
But was the name just Axel Murdoch and Reese Murdoch?
Yeah. Like
man, I don't remember that at all.
Well, the story was that we were like cops, but then we got framed, and then we became vigilantes.
So, and we weren't in Alter Quest, but then again, we were in Hour of Need, which was freaking cool. At the Hour of Need, we got like I got to be like a Cyclops Iceman style character. I still
want to get that back. I still want to get that IP. I love that game.
So we did it as jokes. I honestly don't know if we ever want to do that with our own games. Like I mentioned it'd be funny if I was a side character in Malice of Light sometime where I'm just like some really chubby halfling, but it's like I don't think that's necessary, and like I don't know, like it does feel kind of narcissistic, even though we do it as a joke, not like as a glorification. But I think if we did it, it would probably be just more like random NPCs on card art or something, just like a fun, like like you said, a fat halfling, just like at a bar, at a tavern or something, like in the background. That'd be kind of funny. But I don't think we want to make ourselves characters in these settings.
Because like you mentioned, like our kind of like our mission statement, or what I guess it's the wrong term, but whatever it is, like our plan is to like create these cool IPs and then make books and games off of them. So it's like we don't want to kind of like make jokes of them. Like that's what I think Blacklist had, this whole like pop culture reference thing where they wanted to like make jokes.
Yeah, it was really tapping into that whole early Zombicide thing where it was like
we're not a fan of
pop
that.
Culture characters, and some people like that, which is fine. But like we kind of want to establish these worlds and take them somewhat seriously.
Yeah, we're not opposed to being like side characters in these worlds, but that's not like our goal. Like I think like people got the perception that we were pushing for that, but it wasn't really us. It was more just like feeding this expectation or something.
And again, people would ask for it, and it's like we don't feel like we have that strong of opinions to like deny people things they think would be cool. But then of course there are people that thought it was like dumb, like
tacky,
people like, oh my god, I don't want them in my game. I'm not gonna get that expansion. but then people could never find that Twin Tigers expansion. They wanted it so bad.
Yeah, that was that the only question. Because I know
there was a new one that was just put up today that said from Dano Super, which is actually something we kind of touched on. Got a question. If I may, localized version of the game. Is this something you're considering for the campaign, for retail? Not at all. Yes. So we definitely are considering it, but I don't think it'll be part of the crowdfunding campaign. I think what's going to happen, hopefully, is that we're going to focus on English only for the campaign and make sure it funds. And then as part of, if it funds well enough, we're going to partner with other companies in different countries to localize it.
Yeah, because we've got
because they license it from us basically.
Yeah, we've already had interest for it. So like it might not be like you can back it, but luckily like we're not doing a huge like multi-box thing. So like whatever we finish funding and fulfill, that'll be available as is because like the problem we're trying to like tackle right now is because there's a novel involved. So like a novel requires a little bit of different localization approach than just a game because there's a lot of text in a novel, obviously. So we're tackling that hurdle, but it is something that we're exploring. So we want to make sure that that's something that we keep in the plans. So yeah, definitely keep that. We're going to keep a pin in that or whatever you call it. But that's the only the other question was the one I had about Dragon Ball Quest, which I already covered. I think that was the only other question we really had. So, like, what have you been watching? I know you don't watch movies. What have you been reading? You read a lot of books.
I don't watch movies?
I was joking because I was saying, what books have you been reading?
So, I went to go see Weapons.
Hey, me too.
On, was it Monday or Tuesday? I think it was Monday, actually.
Which time?
Yeah. With my daughter, because she was really dying to see it. And so it was me, her, and Brady. I think we just went, that's the three of us or whatever. Really enjoyed it. I think it was fantastic. It was amazing. Great horror movie. If you like horror movies, thrillers or whatever, it's just, it feels like it's a modern classic, instant classic. Like it just feels like this is going to be one you remember.
It felt like Barbarian.
Yeah, it's the guy who did Barbarian. So like, if you liked Barbarian, you probably like this. Very cool movie. But my daughter liked it so much she wanted to go see it again. Yesterday, we saw it on Saturday. So she took her cousin, Brady's daughter, this time, and I took my wife because she hadn't seen it. And everybody enjoyed it. Had a great time. My wife had trouble watching a couple of the scenes because she gets stressed out and there's some jump scares and some pretty good jump scares. But if you haven't seen it yet, I would highly recommend it. It's pretty awesome. Good enough to see twice in 1 week. So
yeah, it was very. It made me feel good watching it again. Like I liked it the first time. Second time, liked it even more.
Now the cool thing is this guy, Zach Kreger, is that his name?
Is it Krieger or Kreger?
I don't know, but he is actually going to be doing a new Resident Evil movie, like kind of rebooting the series, and he was a big fan of the games. So it's gonna have nothing to do with the previous Resident Evil movies thing.
Yeah, it makes me a little nervous when he's saying how like it's like it's weird. It's like nerve wracking and relieving. Where he's like, I want to like I don't want to tell the story of the games. I'm fine with that, but I want to make sure it's like adjacent enough to the games because when somebody says like I don't want to tell the story of the games, I think of like the first Resident Evil movies where it like was just its own thing.
Yeah, but it tried to tell the story of the games in its own way. That's the problem. Because it started off as a mansion and. Like,
but I trust this guy. I think he's going to do a good job. I'm just curious where it's going to go, and I'm very relieved that he wants to use, or he already has announced that he's using. I think it's Austin Abrams, the guy that played James in Weapons, the drug guy. He's really good actor, so I'm excited to see what role he plays. I mean, I watched that as well, but I've also watched the first 2 episodes of Alien Earth.
Watch the first episode of it.
And I want to know what everyone's problem is.
Well, I think I've only watched the first episode, so I have to watch the second. I'm probably going to watch the second episode tonight, so we can't really talk about that. But I think from the first episode, I got the sense that people liked the first episode, but I guess the second episode kind of changed the tone or something.
Yeah,
but
I guess I didn't catch it. I wasn't super like the first episode was great, and like the second episode, it wasn't like I was super invested, but it was fun and stuff. And I didn't catch the twist that everyone seemed to like really like.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a twist or not. It might have just been like it wasn't going the same direction as the first episode.
I don't know. I think I just was. Maybe I was checked out too, where I was just like kind of like watching it while I played Angry Birds Mounts and, and like
so it must be an engaging show. Then.
Well, no, but I mean, that's why I watch those when I go to bed. I play a mobile game and I watch a show, and I'm still paying attention to the show. It's not like I'm ignoring ignoring it, but I didn't catch anything that really was that egregious that made it seem like, oh, this is terrible. But again, I'm not like a huge Alien enthusiast. I'm just a casual, fan. So it was cool though. I'm still reading Mark A. Latham's The Last Vigilant, which it's the Kingdom of Oak and Steel, I believe. Close to finishing that. It's really good though. I highly recommend picking that up. It's really, really fun read. Also trying to finish The Witcher at the same time. So whenever I'm juggling 2 books, it kind of slows me down. But I'm trying to stay along with that. Anything else you've been watching or reading or playing? We've been back on Night Rain. Mentioned that, right? Been playing with Anton, 3-man runs.
Yeah, Anton. We actually worked with Anton back in the day at FFG, and we ran into him at Gen Con. He's working at Pegasus Games now.
No, Pegasus Spiel, is that Pegasus Spiel?
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever that is.
But he turns out he plays Elden Ring all the time. So Night Rain. So we teamed up with him, and it's nice playing with somebody who knows what they're doing. And
knows the map,
guiding us around pretty well. It's really fun 3-player. So it's funny because they just finally put out the 2-player mode where you can play just 2-player, which was great. But it's nice to actually have a full 3-man team.
I still want to play.
Be able to communicate.
I still want to play Raven's Watch Run though, because right now I'm craving a Raven's Watch Run. Raven's Watch.
I also tried out the Battlefield 6 open beta and was pretty impressed with that. Even though I don't play a lot of first-person shooters these days, we played a heck of a lot of Battlefield 2 way back in the day, and that was such a cool experience. Like big, huge, open map battlefields.
Was that the one I played the Special Forces guy that like planted TNT on the tanks? And,
and like they had 9 classes, I think, back then. Now they have 4 classes, but they brought classes back because they got rid of them for the previous games. But very well done.
I think next episode we'll have a lot to talk about because of Gamescom next week. This is when this launches. It's Gamescom preview, right? Like the first night of Gamescom because it's the 19th.
Yeah, actually it was already leaked. It's potentially leaked that there was a Diablo for Diablo 4 that there's going to be a Paladin announced at Gamescom, Paladin class, which I've been waiting for a while. Actually, when I heard that leak, because someone saw a file in the in the data mining or whatever, and there was a file called x.paladin, which looked like a demo file, and everybody's thinking that that's a demo of the game for Gamescom that's going to have the Paladin class for people to try out. So it's totally speculative right now, but it's very likely because Blizzard has all but confirmed that they're working on a Paladin character, and it's something that I've been wanting ever since Diablo 4 came out. So I saw the news of that leak, and I actually got back into Diablo 4, and I'm playing through this season that I think it's season 9. It's the only season so far that I haven't played all the way through. So I have like a couple weeks before it ends. So I'm trying to I just unlock the baby goat pet, but I'm trying to get all the battle pass stuff unlocked. So
I should even try. But I'm so
it
far
goes so
from
fast.
I want to go play Raven's Watch right now.
Well, that's your problem.
Cool. Well, that's our update now. I think you need to go follow along on the Goodreads page for Ransom Creek Remains. Make sure you pick it up next week. We're gonna be loud about it. We'll be posting everywhere that it's coming out. So
I will say that if you're excited about our games at all, any way we can get the books promoted is just a way to expose more people to the company, and it'll let us do more games. So the more books we can sell, the more games we can make. So let's just get this going.
Yeah, get those games, get those books, get those games. Thanks for hanging out, and we will be back maybe next week or the week after, but we'll have a lot of more news, I'm sure, because things are happening so fast. So thanks for checking in.
See you next time.